It has to be injected directly into the computer systems that aren't networked. But they'll still use that, even though it's a different type of attack, to say we should censor the internet and shut things down, and that somehow a foreign government put out Stuxnet like Russia, China. And sure enough, a month later, they came out and said, yeah, Stuxnet's a foreign power. We need to take your rights away on the internet because of it. And it's admitted the United States and Israel cooked the thing up. Now, Iran, in the last month, has had top generals shot, top scientists car-bombed, military bases blown up, and they're giant. The whole base is a crater. And the news says, oh, an ammo dump blew up. Yeah, right when Ahmadinejad was supposed to arrive, he arrived late. He knows how to move his schedule around. But the top missile general, he did die. Well, now there's another one. And the New York Times is making fun of people that say Israel is involved. I mean, folks, do people read these mainstream newspapers to feel like morons and to know you're being laughed at and talked down to? It's like that Dana Bash on the news saying, oh, I'm worried about him being elected, ruining it for the other Republican person, and so are other Republicans. What does that even mean? Ron Paul's going to ruin Iowa. He's going to ruin this. He's going to ruin it for the Republican nominee. This talking point that he'll make Obama win. On CNN, they just dispense with any fair objectivism because they're scared to death. They're running scared. Oh, my gosh, the sheep aren't acting like sheep anymore. So I told you, in the last 4 or 5 months, they've escalated, blowing stuff up almost every day. Now, if that isn't a war, I don't know what is. And here's an article by Paul Joseph Watson that just came out. U.S.-backed terror group responsible for assassination of Iranian nuclear scientist. Support for terrorist organization, part of covert war to topple Iran regime. And if you look at the 4 groups they got in there, there's 5 total. One's Kurdish, the others are all real Wahhabist Al-Qaeda. just like in Libya, the stinking criminals that run our government run Al-Qaeda. They use them against us to take our liberty. They use them against the Serbs to take their liberty. They use them against the Russians. They use them against everybody. Al-Qaeda, the skeleton key, the arm of the New World Order, the sword Valkyrie, held at the side of the black war chief, Lucifer. The key that opens any door. And now, report, Tehran car bomb kills Iranian nuclear scientist. But don't say the West is involved or you're a conspiracy theorist. In fact, if you can think you're a conspiracy theorist, then it's a thought crime. There are limitless ways. I see articles all the time in the news about conspiracy theorists say Israel has hundreds of nuclear weapons. No, Jane's Weapons Quarterly, since the late 1960s, says Israel has nuclear weapons. Every major government out there that has analysis says they've got at least 300. And ICBMs to deliver them anywhere in the world, and medium-range missiles. I mean, but again, only Americans are talked to like we're children. And I've actually had people call into the show before and say, you shouldn't talk about Israel and its nukes. You know, number one, you're wrong, but number two, you shouldn't talk about it. And say, okay, Russia launched the Stuxnet against Iran. Okay, some type of mythical creature is blowing up all these military bases. Okay. Doesn't matter if you've had all these Israeli scientists come out and break down that they've got. Of course they've got it. And then it becomes the hypocritical discussion, why can they have it? Or why does Pakistan have over 100 nuclear weapons? I don't know. If the so-called mainstream media said they didn't now, would I have to go, oh, well, you say so? I mean, if Barbara Walters or somebody said, walk off a cliff, you can fly. I'm like, oh, well, I'll just jump off the Grand Canyon because you said so. I mean, they just with straight faces spew the most ridiculous bull at people. We're a laughingstock around the world. Americans, because of the brainwashing, compared to any other nation, cannot mention continents, systems of government, famous events. I mean, just don't have passports on average, know nothing. And think having pot-bellied known criminals stick their hands down your pants and grab your genitals, they think that's freedom. And then I get up here and say, you know, there's a covert war going in Iran. That's ridiculous. None of that's going on. And Bush, 5 years ago, signed the order to launch this stuff, and Obama has expanded it. And a known al-Qaeda group has been taken off the terrorist list now and is hanging out in D.C. And Anwar al-Awlaki was hanging out secretly with the head of the Pentagon. And I talk to these guys that just love to get rid of our rights because, you know, the Arabs have got to die. And I tell them, you know, most of the Homeland Security is focused on conservatives and libertarians. Now, you know that I can give you all these examples of al-Qaeda working for the U.S. government. People like Tucker Carlson, when he was talking to Adam versus the Man, Adam Kokesh, he said, you're parasites. Alex Jones is a bleeper, and you have no proof. How dare you say this with no proof? And it's like the proof's everywhere, but they just say you have no proof. I mean, it's like this trick of just, I say so. It's like, oh, my gosh, you're an establishment person, and your hair has come so nice, and you're acting condescending. I better bow down to you right away. I mean, it's like a game. It's a trance. It's a joke. I mean, every form of classical tyranny is rearing up in our face, and we're here ringing the alarm bells, and they're saying, anybody that says that we should follow the Constitution is crazy. Anybody that says if you don't follow the Constitution, you'll get into tyranny is crazy. It's all happening. I mean, look at this out of Heratz. Report, Tehran car bomb kills Iranian nuclear scientist. It goes on to say the government news agency reports that Ahmadi Roshan, 32, supervised development of the Natanz uranium enrichment facility. The Tehran official blames Israel for the bombing. So Iran's actually coming out and, you know, pointing out who's behind it, which before they wouldn't do because it made them look weak, but now it's too obvious with bombs going off constantly. But what does the New York Times say? They condescend. I'm sure that he did it to himself. Blaming U.S. and Israel. Oh, those nasty Iranians. They did it again. They said the sky was blue. Is there no shame? I mean, they expect us to believe Israel and the people that run the U.S., the globalists, would carry out covert operations that they admit they're doing? See, that's what's funny. Separately, because they have to authorize it, it's all authorized and admitted they're doing it. But then for the public, they say, oh, how silly. I heard a funny one today, Martha. They said Israel was the one blowing up all those military bases. And I've seen some of the satellite photos of these bases. It's got to be 2,000-pound bombs they're dropping. I mean, some of these are aircraft up there doing this. This isn't just saboteurs. But it doesn't matter, because a good old boy who thinks he's a good old boy, he doesn't know how to skin a buck or run a trot line, but he knows how to wear a John Deere hat. He'll go, Martha, listen to this. The Iranians are saying our government would do that. Our government wouldn't do that. Everybody knows it's Iraners that blow stuff up, them Arabs. Hey, buddy, they're not Arabs, they're Persians. Shut up, I want to give my rights up. I hope the foreign banks take everything I got, because it's patriotic. All right, tons of news straight ahead. You don't want to miss what's coming up. Stay with us. Here's the headlines. Tehran car bomb kills Iranian nuclear scientist. And of course, they've got that Iranian former U.S. Marine Corps guy who said he was visiting his grandma over there. You know, people could say, well, why do they always assassinate people with bombs? Because that way you make sure you get them. You can't insert somebody like Chris Kyle, a sniper, into the middle of a major Iranian city, a guy who can barely speak English from Texas, much less speak Farsi. Again, I've seen the satellite photos of some of these bases that have been blown up. It's not even saboteurs on the ground doing this. Very serious situation. Here's another one. Assassination of Iranian nuclear scientist is a familiar story. London Telegraph. The script by now is familiar enough. An assassin riding a motorcycle, that's the Mossad signature, weaves through Tehran morning traffic towards his target. Almost invariably, a car, the vehicle of choice for officials of Iran's nuclear program. I guess it's a Peugeot, you pronounce it. Continuing, leaning out a hand, the motorist attaches a magnetic explosive device, sometimes called a sticky bomb, to the door nearest the man he's trying to kill, and then speeds off. Seconds later, the bomb is detonated by remote control. It is so sophisticated that only the target is killed. Those sitting next to him or in front or behind him escape with just cuts and bruises. Yeah, it's a shape charge. Wednesday's target was Mustafa Ahmadiyya Roshan, killed in his vehicle in front of a university campus in East Tehran. A chemist by training, he was a deputy director of Iran's main uranium enrichment plant, a role given to him because of his expertise in gas separation technology, a technique vital to the enrichment process. He was the 5th Iranian nuclear scientist to be targeted in the past 2 years and the 4th to die. The only survivor was the biggest prize of all. In 2010, I'm not going to even try to pronounce the name, now the head of Iran's Atomic Energy Organization was well trained enough to recognize that the clicking sound on the door of his car meant he and his wife leapt clear just in time. The same day on the other side of Iran's capital, one of his colleagues was less fortunate and fell victim to another motorcycle assassin. Iran's officials were quick to apportion blame Wednesday, the latest attack directing angry accusations at both Israel and their intelligence service, the Mossad, and at the Americans. A lot of Western security experts will say that the Iranians have some justification in their suspicion, at least as far as Israel is concerned. Mossad is expert at carrying out assassinations abroad, and Israel has most to lose from Iran acquiring a nuclear weapon. And boy, you better believe the folks carrying these out are risking their lives. Trying to get into Iran and do that. The latest assassination comes at a particularly tense time in Iran's relations with the West. In the past fortnight, the United States and Europe have begun the process of implementing sanctions that could, for the first time, seriously threaten the Iranian regime's survival. Iran has responded by threatening to seal off the Strait of Hormuz, through which 1/5 of the world's oil supplies passes, sentencing a U.S. former Marine of Iranian descent to death on spying charges and holding war games in the Persian Gulf. This week it announced that the uranium enrichment began at a second facility, Fordow, buried deep underground, making it much harder to use military force to destroy Iran's nuclear program. And the word I've got from multiple military sources, high and low, including Colonel Schaefer, is that they do actually have atomic weapons. They probably do. They could have easily gotten them from Pakistan. I mean, South Africa had a bunch of nukes. Most countries have race-specific bioweapons. Can you imagine what happens when these accidentally get out or are released, or somebody gets mad because their husband or wife gets killed, and so they release a race-specific bioweapon? And you've got all these eugenicists at the major universities here in the West writing public papers about how great it's going to be when the airborne bird flu or Ebola gets released and how they're ready to die with their family and how beautiful it is. I mean, whoa, I'm not worried about Iran. The West wants to attack Iran for political diversions while they implode the world economy. Israel is into 6 months of rioting and demonstrations across the board, from across their political spectrum. Europe, the United States, everybody is angry. But if they get us into a big war, Americans will rally around the flag that's plastered on the war. The Israelis will do it. The Brits will do it. And this is going to be a big war. And most military sources I talk to in my own analysis is that Iran is going to concentrate its attacks on Western targets in the Strait of Hormuz and Israel and other areas of the Middle East, Central Asia, that they probably won't